Let's have a nightcap. Let down your hair.
Known as the voice and the Sultan of Swoon, Frank Sinatra was arguably the 20th century's greatest singer of popular song.
Frank Sinatra was a rare breed. He was a ladies' man and a man's man sort of simultaneously. Women wanted to be with him and men wanted to be him.
I think there's not anyone that's ever been as cool as Frank Sinatra.
Born of Sicilian roots in Hoboken, New Jersey on December 12, 1915, Frank Sinatra dropped out of high school to pursue singing professionally. In 1940, he joined Tommy Dorsey's band. 2 years later, he left to strike out on his own.
Frank Sinatra, during the 40s, charted 17 top 10 singles. He was the boy band of the 40s. He was the it guy. I mean, he was the Beatles. He was the biggest thing there was.
During World War II, Sinatra married his first wife and childhood sweetheart, Nancy Barbato. They had 3 children together before their marriage ended. About this time, he also started his film career, scoring his first box office hit in 1945 with Anchors Aweigh.
Anchors Aweigh was the first film that Sinatra really broke big in. He co-starred with Gene Kelly as these 2 sailors traveling through New York on leave.
In the late 1940s, his career sagged a bit. And then, unbelievably, Frank Sinatra actually needed to make a comeback, which seems crazy to say today. And he made that comeback with From Here to Eternity.
Frank Sinatra really became a legendary movie star when he won an Oscar for From Here to Eternity. That was a part that he really fought to get and really paid off for him. That made audiences sit up and take notice of him as more than just a musician who would appear in movies.
In 1951, Sinatra left his first wife to marry actress Ava Gardner.
The Ava Gardner-Frank Sinatra relationship was one of the romances of the century, according to People magazine. It was a tumultuous, passionate pairing.
Sinatra's relationship with Ava Gardner was very scandalous. Ava Gardner was probably the love of his life. He wrote letters to her on a daily basis for decades.
In the 1950s, Frank Sinatra's music was a lot more jazzier and mature than his earlier music.
Sinatra began again racking up top 10 Billboard singles such as All the Way and Witchcraft.
In the late 50s, Frank Sinatra left Capitol Records to strike out on his own with his own record label, Reprise Records. More and more, Frank chose his own arrangers, his own songs. Basically, he was determined to expand the career that he loved.
Frank Sinatra went to Las Vegas casinos for his shows and gathered around him a group of people that we later called the Rat Pack, including Dean Martin, Joey Bishop, and Sammy Davis Jr., and Peter Lawford.
The advantage of being Frank Sinatra is that you could do movies with your friends, the Rat Pack. There were a few Rat Pack movies: Ocean's 11, Three Sergeants, Robin and the Seven Hoods.
Sinatra married again for the 3rd time in 1966 to 21-year-old actress Mia Farrow. He was 50 years old at the time.
In 1970, Frank Sinatra announced his retirement, but came back 3 years later with the hugely successful Old Blue Eyes Is Back.
Sinatra married a 4th and final time to Barbara Blakely Marks in 1976.
Frank continued singing late in his years. At the age of 77 in 1993, he released this album called Duets, where he covered his classic works with many other huge stars like Bono, Aretha Franklin, Barbra Streisand, and it was great. It showed how timeless his music was.
Frank Sinatra ended his 50-plus year show business career with his final performance in 1995. He died 3 years later on May 14, 1998, in Los Angeles, California.
Frank Sinatra's voice, to me, is one of the great human mysteries. It's tender, strong, vulnerable, very masculine, also female, absolutely irresistible.
We throw around the words legend and icon when I think we mean gifted and talented, but there's no disputing it with Frank Sinatra. He was a legend. He was an icon.